In fact, all I needed was 5 minutes and one completely ridiculous question. Stella, you definitely need to come with me to this charity gala next week. I'm just sure you'll be curious to see how the other part of society lives. Kendrick Lowell raised his glass of fine wine, and his friends burst out laughing. He didn't even look at the woman who was tidying up the tables after the corporate celebration. It was just fun for him. Invite the technical staff to a lavish social event. The room instantly quieted down. Stella Riley straightened up and looked straight into the eyes of the 32-year-old tycoon. Thank you for the invitation, Mr. Lowell. I'll be happy to come. I'll meet you there at 7 o'clock in the evening, she replied. Kendrick almost dropped his glass. He expected her to blush and leave, rather than give an answer with such imperturbable dignity. Yes, of course, he muttered, looking at Stella's calm expression. She nodded and continued her work as if nothing out of the ordinary had happened. Kendrick remained standing with his jaw hanging open, while his companions exchanged puzzled glances. It all started 3 hours earlier, when Orion Technologies employees gathered at the Park Avenue headquarters to celebrate another successful quarter. Kendrick built his software development firm from scratch over a decade, starting with a small startup in a rented basement. Now, he had representative offices in 3 major metropolitan areas and agreements with the largest multinational corporations in the country. The numbers in this reporting period are amazing, said Nathan Spencer, his business partner and older friend. But investors from Nord Group Holdings want to hold a meeting next week. They are very determined. Let them come. Kendrick finished his wine. We have everything under control. He looked around the room filled with his employees, developers, account managers, financiers, all those who helped him build his business empire. Kendrick was proud to have grown up from a modest town near Detroit and reached such heights in New York. Are you going to auction for the benefit of the Children's Ballet Foundation? Nathan asked. Yes, it's necessary to support the arts. Kendrick chuckled. Besides, there will be influential people there. It was at that moment that he noticed Stella. She appeared in the hall at exactly 10 o'clock in the evening, as always. Stella had been working as a night cleaner for 3 years now, but Kendrick rarely paid attention to her. He usually left the office earlier. The woman moved silently and methodically, collecting used plates and wine glasses. Her dark locks were tied up in a simple bun, and her uniform hid the outline of her figure. She tried not to interfere with the guests, but a couple of times their eyes still met. Look at her. An unsteady voice from one of the coders caught Kendrick's attention. I wonder what she's thinking about when she looks at us. She's probably feeling jealous, another laughed. Kendrick felt the alcohol loosen his tongue. He wanted to impress his colleagues, demonstrate his generosity and wit. The charity auction seemed like the perfect excuse for a poignant joke. Stella, he called loudly. She looked up from the table she was wiping. What do you want? How do you like the idea of spending an evening among the wealthy and famous? Stella did not answer, continuing her work. This annoyed Kendrick. It seemed to him that she was ignoring him. I'm not joking. Do you want to see how we have fun? It was then that he uttered his invitation, expecting embarrassment and rejection. Instead, he received an agreement that stunned him. After Stella left, Kendrick stood in the empty room for a long time. Nathan approached him with a worried expression on his face. Are you seriously planning to take a cleaner to a social event? I don't know, Kendrick admitted honestly. I just wanted to make fun, and she agreed without delay. It's strange. What's wrong with that? I've probably never been to places like this. Nathan shook his head. Kendrick, I've seen a lot of women. This one didn't have a hint of embarrassment. She replied as if she was used to such invitations. Kendrick thought about it. Indeed, there was no trepidation or excessive gratitude in Stella's voice, just calm confidence. He got to his penthouse in Midtown Manhattan around 1 o'clock in the morning. The apartment occupied the entire top floor of an elite skyscraper with panoramic windows and a designer interior. But luxury didn't bring him joy right now. Kendrick poured himself a bourbon and stood by the window, looking out at the city lights. What has he done? Tomorrow, everyone in the office will be discussing his eccentric act. What if Stella really comes? He tried to remember what he knew about her. She has been working for 3 years, is always punctual, and has never expressed dissatisfaction. He lives somewhere in a suburban area, about his age, maybe a little younger, no more data. And now he has to spend the evening with a complete stranger at an event where the entire elite of New York will gather. Kendrick realized that he had made a mistake. Meanwhile, Stella was riding home on a crowded overnight express bus. She stared out the window and pondered the unusual set of circumstances. It was the first time in her 3 years at Orion Technologies that her boss had addressed her directly. Of course, she understood that it was a passing joke. A young, rich man decided to have fun by inviting a simple cleaning lady into high society, but something forced her to accept the challenge. Is it fatigue from constant neglect? Maybe it's a memory of the time when she was a part of the world she was invited to. Or maybe it was just curiosity. What would happen if she agreed? Stella got off at her stop and walked through the unlit streets to the house. Tomorrow she would call her mother in Boston and tell her about the invitation. Mom will be surprised. Over the past 3 years, Stella has had no reason to be amused. As she climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor, she thought about her outfit. She has one dress that might fit. Dark blue from a famous couturier, acquired in a previous life. It's been hanging in the wardrobe for 3 years now, waiting for the right moment. It looks like the moment has come. Kendrick woke up with a migraine and an unpleasant feeling that he had made a mistake. The bright sunlight through the panoramic windows hurt my eyes, reminding me of last night. Veronica, cancel all my appointments for today, he told his executive assistant on the phone. But you have an important video call with investors at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Reschedule for tomorrow. Kendrick poured coffee and sat down at the table. It was necessary to make a decision about this invitation. Should I send Stella flowers and politely decline? Should I say that I'm sick? The phone rang. Nathan. How did you sleep, Lord of Women's Hearts? Shut up. What should I do now? Are you seriously asking that? Go to the gala with her. One evening won't ruin you. Evening? What if she embarrasses me or herself? Kendrick, you're an adult. You can handle it. But Kendrick wasn't sure. He knew perfectly well the rules of social etiquette, knew how to behave with shareholders and business partners, but how to spend an evening with a woman about whom nothing is known. In another area of the city, Stella was cleaning up the apartment of an elderly couple where she worked part-time in the mornings. Mrs. Evelyn Stone, the hostess, noticed her thoughtfulness. What's wrong, dear? You look a little worried. I've been invited to a party. Really? How intriguing. And who invited you? Stella told about the incident the day before. Mrs. Stone listened in growing amazement. This young man doesn't know who he's messing with, the old lady laughed. You can easily outshine any socialite. That was a long time ago, Mrs. Stone, Stella said. Giftedness doesn't go away, and neither does parenting. In the evening, Stella was going up to her 3rd floor when she heard her neighbor's voice. Stella, honey, come in for a minute. Edith Grayson was a former costume designer who created outfits for the Opera House. Now she was living on Social Security benefits and helping neighbors with minor clothing repairs. I heard you have a significant event planned, said an elderly lady, inviting her into her apartment. Mrs. Stone told me. She's worried about you, and so am I. Show me what you have for the evening. Stella brought a dark blue dress. Edith Grayson examined it carefully. It's a great piece, dear, but it needs to fit perfectly. You've gotten slimmer over the years. They spent the evening sewing. Edith Grayson worked meticulously, telling stories from the backstage life of the theater. "Do you know what is the most important thing at such events?" "What is it?" she asked, pinning the pins. "Unshakable confidence. If you realize your worth, everyone around you will feel it. And if I don't realize it, then remember who you were and think about who you can become." Stella remained silent. For the past 3 years, she had avoided remembering the past. It's too painful. Meanwhile, Kendrick was trying to find out more about his companion. He looked through Stella's personal dossier in the HR department. Scant information. She was born in Boston. Education, conservatory. Previous place of employment is not specified. "Strange," he muttered. "Why does a girl with a musical education work as a cleaning service employee?" He wanted to talk to her directly, but Stella didn't show up at the office until late at night, when he was already leaving. Kendrick was late at work on Thursday. Stella arrived at 10 o'clock in the evening, as usual. "Good evening," he said as she began cleaning his office. "Good evening, Mr. Lowell. Listen, about Saturday. Are you really going to go?" Stella looked up at him. "Would you rather I didn't go?" "No, it's just that it's going to be a pretty formal event. A lot of strangers." "I understand. And the dress code is strict." "I have the right outfit." Kendrick nodded. There was no doubt or alarm in her voice. "Okay, I'll meet you in the lobby of the Plaza Hotel at 7 o'clock. "Agreed." Stella continued cleaning, and Kendrick looked at her with growing curiosity. There was something about her demeanor that didn't fit with the cleaning profession. On Friday, Edith Grayson completed the fitting of the dress. Stella tried it on and looked at herself in the old mirror. "What a beauty," the neighbor smiled. "Now hair and makeup." "I'm not sure I can do it on my own." "Who said I could do it on my own? I have a friend at a beauty salon. Angelina worked as a stylist in the theater. Now she has a private studio. She'll help you." "Mrs. Grayson, I can't spend money on a salon." "Who's talking about money? Angelina owes me for making her daughter's wedding dress. Agreed?" Stella agreed. On Saturday morning, she went to the stylist. Angelina turned out to be an energetic woman in her 50s with penetrating eyes. "Edith told me everything," she said, seating Stella in a chair. "Social event." "Yes. Let's see what we can do." 2 hours later, Stella did not recognize herself in the mirror. Her hair was pulled back in an elegant high hairstyle. Her makeup accentuated her eyes and high cheekbones. She looked exactly the same as before. "Thank you," she said softly. "Good luck, dear. And remember, you're worth no less than any of them." Kendrick spent Saturday at an elite fitness club, trying to take his mind off his nervousness. He chose his best tuxedo, expensive watches, cufflinks from a famous jewelry house, but the worry wouldn't go away. At 6:30, he was standing in the plaza lobby, straightening his bow tie. The guests of the auction gathered around, politicians, business leaders, and artists. Kendrick knew a lot of people by sight. At 5 minutes to 7, he began to get nervous. What if she doesn't show up or changes her mind at the last moment? At 7 o'clock sharp, a limo taxi stopped at the entrance. A woman in a blue dress got out of the car. It took Kendrick a moment to realize that it was Stella. "Mr. Lowell." Stella's voice woke him up. He stood with his mouth open, staring at a woman he couldn't recognize. The blue dress perfectly fitted her figure, emphasizing her graceful neck and shoulders. Her hair was styled in a classic hairstyle, and light makeup made her face look almost aristocratic. "Stella? What is it?" he asked uncertainly. "Yes, it's me. Are you late?" "No. You look stunning." She smiled, and Kendrick realized that this smile had nothing to do with shyness or appreciation. It was the smile of a woman who knows her own worth. Thanks. Let's go through. They went up the marble staircase to the ballroom. Kendrick could feel the eyes of his acquaintances on him. Some nodded at him, clearly intrigued by his companion. It's a gorgeous place, Stella remarked, looking around the room with crystal chandeliers and gilded columns. Have you been here before? Have you been here for a long time? Kendrick wanted to ask when, but they were interrupted by Nathan. Kendrick introduces to a charming lady. Nathan Spencer, my partner, Kendrick introduced. Stella Riley, she finished, extending her hand to Nathan. He gallantly kissed her hand in an old-fashioned manner. It's a pleasure. Do you work for our company? Yes, but we rarely cross paths in our line of work. Kendrick was struck by the diplomacy of her response. Stella didn't lie, but she also didn't reveal the truth about her work. Excuse me, I want to introduce Stella to the conductor of the children's orchestra, Kendrick said, seeing a respectable man at the piano. They approached Mr. Robert Adams, the chief conductor of the New York Youth Symphony Orchestra. Mr. Adams, may I introduce Stella Riley? The conductor turned and looked at Stella carefully. It's a pleasure. Are you interested in classical music? Yes, quite deeply. What do you think about the program of today's concert? To be honest, I would add something from Gershwin. The second piano concerto is perfect for a youth orchestra. Technically challenging, but extremely emotional. The conductor raised his eyebrows. An interesting thought. What about Leonard Bernstein's interpretation? Bernstein played Gershwin too academically. This composer demands more passion, more American spirit. Kendrick listened in amazement. Stella talked about music as if she had devoted her whole life to it. I totally agree, the conductor smiled. I rarely see such an understanding among people who are not professionally connected with music. Who says I'm not connected? Stella replied softly. The official part of the evening has begun. The guests took their places at the tables. Kendrick and Stella were sitting in the center of the room where the main benefactors had gathered. How are you, Lowell? Victor Grant, the owner of a large real estate development company, joined them. Who is this beauty? Stella Riley, Kendrick introduced her. Oh, I see. Model, actress. Music teacher, Stella replied calmly. How curious. And where do you teach? Private lessons, mostly for children. Victor Grant nodded and switched to Kendrick, but Kendrick continued to stare at Stella. Music teacher. When did she manage to do this, working as a night cleaner? The auction has begun. Lots were put up one after another. Paintings, jewelry, trips to tropical resorts. Stella followed the bidding closely, sometimes writing something down in a small notebook. Next lot, the auctioneer announced. Antique piano by Master Benjamin French. The year is 1875. The instrument has been completely restored and is in working order. Stella leaned forward. This craftsman made instruments for the composer Stevens, she whispered to Kendrick. The sound of these pianos is special, very deep. Do you know about antique instruments? A little. Bidding started at $50,000. Stella watched them intently. When the price reached $100,000, most of the participants quit the game. $110,000, the fat man in the corner shouted. $120,000, Stella said calmly, raising her hand. Kendrick choked on his wine. What are you doing? I'm buying a piano. Do you have $120,000? No, but you have. Buy it for a children's orchestra. They need a high-quality tool, and you have a reputation for being a generous sponsor. Kendrick looked at her in disbelief, but something in her gaze made him nod to the auctioneer. 120,000 from Mr. Lowell. Are there any people willing to outbid the bet? The plump man waved his hand, refusing to bid. Sold to Mr. Lowell for $120,000. The hall was noisy. Many people turned to their table with approval. Excellent choice, Robert Adams said. Our kids will love it. It was Stella's idea, Kendrick said. The conductor looked at her with renewed interest. You have great taste and knowledge of tools. The evening continued. Stella easily communicated with the guests, demonstrating her knowledge of art, literature, and history. Kendrick saw men watching her go, and women trying to figure out who she was. During the dance part, Stella agreed to dance with him. She moved with natural grace, as if she had been born on a parquet floor. Where did you learn to dance like that? He asked. As a child, choreography was part of the curriculum. What kind of curriculum? But Stella didn't answer. She was looking away, and Kendrick followed her gaze. Two elegant, middle-aged ladies were standing by the wall, talking animatedly while looking in their direction. I told you it was her. He heard a fragment of the conversation. Stella Fox from the San Francisco Ballet. Do you remember how delightfully she danced the Dying Swan? Kendrick stopped abruptly. Stella Fox, are you a ballerina? Stella's face paled. There was, a long time ago. But how did you become? I'm sorry, she interrupted. I need to go to the ladies' room. Stella quickly headed for the exit, leaving Kendrick completely confused. He stood in the middle of the dance floor, trying to make sense of what had happened. Stella Fox, San Francisco Ballet. Now he understood her confidence, her grace, her knowledge of high society. But how did the prima ballerina become a night cleaner in his office? Kendrick waited at the entrance to the ladies' room for almost half an hour. When Stella finally came out, her eyes were red-rimmed. I'm sorry, she said softly. I should probably leave. No, wait, let's talk. About what? You got what you wanted. Everyone saw how the generous millionaire came with an exotic companion. There was bitterness in her voice. Kendrick realized that she considered him the same as all the other rich men who had fun with beautiful women. It's not like that. I want to get to know the real you. Stella looked at him carefully. Why? Because you're not who you seem, and I'm not who you seem. They left the hotel on a cool May night. New York City glowed with millions of lights, and rare cars drove along Park Avenue. I know a place, Kendrick said. It's quiet there, and we can talk. The coffee shop next to the Lincoln Center was open around the clock and was popular with the theater audience. At 3 o'clock in the morning, there were only a few customers sitting there. Coffee? Kendrick asked. Stella nodded. They sat by the window and were silent for a while. My name is not Stella Riley, she finally said. Real name is Fox. Riley is for working papers. Why are you hiding your name? Because I don't want pity. Stella took a sip of coffee and began to tell. Kendrick listened without interrupting. She was born in Boston into the family of a music teacher and a factory worker. From the age of 5, she studied dancing at a local studio. The talent was obvious. At the age of 12, she was accepted into the School of American Ballet in New York. Mom cried when I left, Stella recalled, but she understood that this was my chance. 8 years of training, then the San Francisco Ballet Troupe. First the corps de ballet, then the soloist, and finally the lead role. At the age of 24, she danced the main roles in Swan Lake, Don Quixote, and Giselle. It was incredible, she said, and her eyes shone with memories. When you go on stage, you feel the energy of the audience. Thousands of people freeze looking at you. What happened next? Stella's face darkened. 3 years ago. The play Swan Lake. The fourth act. Odette's death scene. I was making a difficult jump and landed badly. Ligament rupture, ankle fracture. The doctors struggled for almost a year. 2 surgeries, long-term rehabilitation. But it was impossible to return to the previous level. And the money? Insurance? Kendrick asked. What kind of insurance? Stella smiled bitterly. Ballet dancers have no such guarantees. The contract is over. I was discharged from the hospital. That's it. The worst part was that my father died at the same time, and my mother was diagnosed with diabetes. The pension was barely enough for medicines. I sold my apartment in San Francisco, and I gave the money for my mom's medical treatment. She moved to New York herself. There are much more opportunities to earn money here. But why as a cleaner? With your education, you can find something more worthy. It's possible if you have connections and recommendations, but I only had a medical certificate of disability and a story about how I got injured. Stella told me how she was looking for a job. Secondary schools required teaching experience. They paid pennies in music studios. Dance schools reminded me of the past too painfully. Working in the cleaning service solved many difficulties, she explained. Night shifts. No one will recognize me. Private lessons can be given to children during the day. In 3 years, I've saved a small amount. For what? I want to open my own music academy, a small one, for children from low-income families, so that talent does not depend on the financial situation of parents. Kendrick was silent, digesting what he had heard. The woman in front of him went from ballet star to night technical staff and didn't break down. Moreover, she had ambitious plans for the future. Why did you agree to go to the auction with me? Tired of hiding. I was invisible for 3 years, and suddenly someone offered to return to that world, even for one evening. And also, Stella smiled for the first time in the whole conversation. I was curious to see what you would do. I knew it was a joke. And what did you see? A man who tries to look better than he really is. But not evil, just... Kendrick felt a pang. Lost his way? He is a successful entrepreneur, the owner of a corporation. I didn't lose my way. I'm fine. Yeah? Why are you alone at such events? Why are you mocking the people who work for you? Why is your best friend looking at you with concern? Kendrick wanted to protest, but realized that she was right. In recent years, he really felt empty. Success in business did not bring joy. His circle of friends was narrowing, and the women were only interested in his accounts. Maybe you're right, he admitted. What should I do? Remember why you started all this and find what really matters. They sat in the coffee shop until dawn, discussing everything in the world: childhood, dreams, disappointments. Kendrick told how he grew up in a small town, how his mother worked 2 shifts to give him the opportunity to study, how he came to New York with $300 and a huge desire for success. I wanted my mom to be proud of me, he said. She died 5 years ago without seeing what I had achieved. But you have achieved, Stella objected. You have a successful company. You give people jobs. Yes, but why all this if there is no one around? When they left the coffee shop, the sun was already rising over the city. Kendrick walked Stella to the bus stop. Thank you for being honest, he said. Thanks for the evening. It was nice to remember who I was. And who do you want to be? Stella thought. My nice self. The real one. Stella Fox, who once danced for thousands of people and now teaches music to children. And that's important too. The bus pulled up. Before entering, Stella turned around. Kendrick, will you be at the office tomorrow? Why? Nothing. I was just curious to recognize the man behind the expensive suit. The bus left, and Kendrick stood at the bus stop, realizing that his life had changed. He met a woman who made him look at himself honestly, and he didn't like what he saw. But now he knew he wanted to change. Kendrick arrived at the office on Monday morning with an unusual feeling. For the first time in many years, he was curious about what the employee would say about his work. He purposely stayed until the evening, waiting for Stella's shift. She showed up at 10, as usual, but now there was something different between them. Not the boss and the subordinate, but two people who got to know each other. "Good evening," she said, entering his office. "Hey, how are you?" "It's fine. And you?" "You can call me by my first name after Saturday. It doesn't sound natural." Stella smiled and started to clean up. Kendrick didn't leave, watching her work. "Tell me about your students," he asked. "Why?" "Interesting." Stella talked about the children she taught music to. 7-year-old Miles, who dreamed of playing the violin, but his parents considered it a waste of time. 12-year-old Annie, with perfect hearing, living with her grandmother on a modest allowance. 10-year-old Sam, the son of a janitor, who begged him to teach him how to play the piano. "How much do you charge for the lesson?" Kendrick asked. "In different ways, who can do as much as they can, sometimes for free. This is not a business, and I'm not a businesswoman. I'm a teacher." Kendrick brought 2 coffees from the cafeteria, and they sat down in his office. The lights of New York City were on outside, and the office was quiet and comfortable. "Don't you regret ballet?" he asked. "Every day, but it's useless to regret." "And if it were possible to return everything back?" Stella thought. I used to think so, but now I realize that life was wonderful, but very limited. Ballet, rehearsals, performances, and now I see the world more broadly." That's how their evening conversations began. Kendrick began staying late at the office every day. They talked about books, movies, and travel. Stella showed him New York, which he had not noticed: small galleries, chamber concerts, secondhand bookstores. In June, Kendrick visited the Metropolitan Museum of Art for the first time in years. Stella took him around the halls, telling him about the artists. Her erudition was amazing. She talked about painting techniques, the history of creating masterpieces, and the biographies of the masters. "How do you know all this?" "What is it?" he asked Sargent's painting. "I read a lot. I used to visit museums a lot with my mom." "Was your mom into art too?" "She taught art history in high school, said that culture is what makes us human." After the gallery, they went to a small cafe near Central Park. Kendrick noticed people turning to look at Stella. Even in a simple casual dress and without makeup, she stood out in a special way. "Stella, I want to help you," he said suddenly. "With what?" "With the Music Academy. Provide funds for rent, equipment." Stella's face became serious. "No, thanks." "Why is that?" "It's your dream." "Because I have to do it myself. Otherwise, it won't be my school, but your charity." Kendrick didn't understand her logic, but he didn't insist. Gradually, he got used to the idea that Stella was not the kind of woman who could be won over with money. In August, their relationship became visible in the office. The staff saw how the manager stayed to talk to the cleaning staff every evening. The gossip began. "Kendrick," Nathan said after another meeting, "are you in love with this girl?" "Maybe." "Then do something normal. Invite her to a restaurant or a theater. Don't sit in the office like a schoolboy." "She won't agree." "How do you know?" Kendrick really didn't ask. Their evening conversations were friendly, but not romantic. Stella kept her distance, and he didn't dare break it. In September, an event occurred that changed everything. Kendrick was looking for documents in the company's old archive and came across a folder with the history of the building. It turned out that in the 90s, the office of the Empire Construction Company was located in this room. The director of the firm was Michael E. Fox. Kendrick sat down in a chair, not believing his eyes. Fox is Stella's father. It turned out that she works in the same building where her father once worked. He studied the documents in more detail. The company declared bankruptcy in 1998 during the economic crisis. Michael Fox lost everything and returned to Boston to work at the factory. In the evening, Kendrick told Stella about the discovery. She turned pale. "Did you know?" he asked. "I guessed it. When I saw the address in the job advertisement, I thought it wasn't a coincidence." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Why? Dad was defeated, and I don't want to live in the past." But Kendrick saw how hard it was for her. There were tears in her eyes. Meanwhile, their relationship became visible not only in the office. In October, an article was published in the gossip column. Millionaire Lowell is dating a former ballerina. The article was accompanied by pictures from a charity gala. Where did they get these photos from? Kendrick was indignant. "It doesn't matter," Stella said. "It's important that everyone is aware now." The article backfired. The parents of some of Stella's students stopped bringing their children to classes. The neighbors began to look askance, and in the office, employees openly discussed the boss's affair with the cleaner. The worst part was that the article caught the eye of major investors. In November, Mr. Richardson, a representative of the Nord Group, came to Kendrick. "Mr. Lowell, we need to talk," he said, closing the office door. "I'm listening to you." "Our group is ready to invest a substantial amount in your company, but there is one question." "What is it?" "Your reputation. Investors are conservative people. They don't like scandals in the press." Kendrick felt a chill in his stomach. "What kind of scandals?" "You're dating a cleaner. It doesn't look serious." "This is my personal matter." "Of course, but our investments are also our business. We can't compromise our reputation by contacting a person who is being gossiped about." Richardson put the contract on the table. $50 million. Your company will become the market leader, but we need stability guarantees. Kendrick took the hint. Stability meant breaking up with Stella. "I need to think about it." "Of course you have a week." In the evening, Kendrick sat in his office and looked at the contract. $50 million. That was more than he had earned in 3 years. Such money opened up limitless prospects, but the price was too high. When Stella arrived, he told her about the conversation with Richardson. "I see," she said calmly. "What is clear?" "You will choose the money. That's okay." "Are you so sure about me?" "Kendrick, you're a businessman, and I'm a problem for your business." "Don't say that." "It's true. And you know what? I'm tired of this. I'm tired of hiding. I'm tired of being the cause of other people's difficulties." Stella took off her rubber gloves and put them on the table. "I'm writing my resignation letter tomorrow." "Where are you going?" "In San Francisco. There is a ballet school there that is ready to hire me as a teacher." Kendrick felt panic. "Wait, I need time to think." "What should I think about?" "The choice is obvious." The next day, Stella actually applied. Nathan tried to dissuade Kendrick from making hasty decisions. "Kendrick, you're aware that you're in love with her." "I am." "Then tell her about it." "So what? Offer her to become a rich man's mistress. She's proud." "And offer to become a wife?" Kendrick was silent. He was afraid that Stella would refuse. He was afraid that she would not be able to forgive him for hesitating with the contract. I was afraid of my own emotions. On December 15th, they met for the last time in the very cafe where they had once talked all night. "I signed the contract," Kendrick said. Stella nodded. "That's right. But I want you to know I love you." She looked up at him with tearful eyes. "And I love you, but that's not enough." "Why?" "Because love is not just a feeling, it's a choice. And you did yours." Stella got up from the table. "Good luck, Kendrick. You're a good person. I just lost my way a little bit." "Stella, wait." But she was already on her way out. Kendrick watched her go, realizing that he had lost the most important thing in his life. The next day, Stella left for San Francisco, and Kendrick was left with a $50 million contract and an empty heart. The year passed like one endless gray day. Kendrick got his $50 million, expanded the company, and opened new branches in 3 states. Magazines described him as one of America's most successful young CEOs. But every evening, passing by the cleaning staff in the office, he remembered Stella. "You look terrible," Nathan said on another Monday. "When was the last time you slept properly?" "I don't remember." "Kendrick, you can't do that. Find yourself a woman. Develop yourself somehow." Kendrick tried. He went on dates with the daughters of financiers, models, and actresses. They were all attractive, intelligent, and suitable in status. But when they laughed, he remembered Stella's laughter. When they talked about art, he thought about how Stella had talked about Sargent. In May, exactly 1 year after their first conversation in a cafe, Kendrick couldn't stand it. He found the phone number of the ballet school in San Francisco and called. "Stella Fox?" "What is it?" the secretary asked. "She doesn't work for us anymore." "And where does she work?" "I don't know. She quit in March." Kendrick hung up the phone with a heavy feeling. Where could Stella have disappeared to? He thought of Edith Grayson, Stella's neighbor. Kendrick found Edith Grayson's home address in the corporate database. He paid her a small subsidy as a former employee of a textile manufactory that his company had acquired. Edith Grayson greeted him with suspicion. "Are you the same Kendrick?" "What is it?" she asked. "Yeah. Tell me, do you know where Stella is?" The old lady studied his face for a long time. "I know. But why do you need her?" "I want to apologize and say what I didn't have time for a year ago." "What exactly?" "That I love her and was a complete idiot." Edith Grayson sighed. "Come on in. Have some tea." She said that Stella really worked in San Francisco, but in March, she got into a traffic accident. A car hit her at a pedestrian crossing. A month in the hospital. Surgery on the same ankle that was injured 3 years ago. "She lost her job due to sick leave," said Edith Grayson. "I returned to Boston to live with my mother. She says she doesn't want to go anywhere anymore." "How is she now?" "Physically fine, but mentally she seemed to have given up." Edith Grayson conveyed Stella's words. "She says she's tired of fighting." Kendrick felt his heart tighten. "Give me her address." "Why?" "To hurt you again?" "To fix a mistake." Edith Grayson looked at him intently. "Do you know what she told me before she left? That if you had chosen her instead of the investment, she would have been the happiest woman in the world." She added, literally, "Now go away. But keep in mind, if you offend her again, I will find you and hold you accountable, regardless of my age." On December 20th, Kendrick got into his SUV and drove to Boston. It took him 6 hours to get there, and all the while, he was thinking about what he would say to Stella. Boston met him with snowfall and cold weather. A small provincial town was sleeping under a white blanket. Kendrick found the right address, an old wooden house in the private sector. He stopped at the gate. What if Stella doesn't want to see him? What if it's too late? An elderly woman opened the door. A copy of Stella, only with gray streaks. "Are you coming to us?" "What is it?" she asked. "My name is Kendrick Lowell. I'm looking for Stella." The woman's face changed. So you're the one? Come on in. It's cold outside. Stella was sitting by the fireplace in the small but cozy living room. She was reading a book and did not immediately raise her head. When she saw Kendrick, the book fell out of her hands. "What are you doing here?" "What is it?" she asked softly. "I'm looking for you." "Why?" "To talk, to apologize, to tell the truth." Stella's mother delicately left the room. Kendrick sat down in the chair opposite. Stella looked exhausted. She had lost weight, and there were dark circles under her eyes, but she was still the most beautiful woman he had ever known. "They told me about the accident," he said. "Who told you?" "Edith Grayson. How are you feeling?" "It's okay. Walking is the most important thing." "And work?" Stella grinned. "Kind of job. There are no ballet schools in Boston. I give private music lessons, but there aren't many children." "Stella, why did you come?" she interrupted. "Say you're sorry. Offer to help." "Don't." "I came to tell you that I was a fool and that I love you." "That's what you said a year ago." "I wasn't ready then. I was afraid of losing my money, my reputation, my business." "And now you're not afraid?" "Now I understand that all this doesn't make sense without you." Stella was silent, looking out the window at the falling snow. "Do you know what I've learned this year?" she finally said. "That happiness is not in what you have achieved, but in who you share it with." "Then let's share it." "What exactly?" "Your success, your money." "My life?" Stella turned to him. "Kendrick, I'm not the woman you knew anymore. I'm broken twice." "Everything can be fixed." "Not everything. I'm not going to dance anymore. Maybe I'll never be able to have children after the accident. I have no money, no plans for the future." "I have plans for two." Kendrick got up from his chair and knelt on one knee in front of Stella. "Marry me." "Are you crazy?" "Maybe, but I know for sure I want to spend the rest of my life with you. I want you to teach music to children again. I want to build the school you dreamed of with you." "And the investors? Reputation?" "To hell with investors. I have enough money not to depend on their opinion." Stella looked at him with tears in her eyes. "And if I can't walk again? If I'm just a burden?" "Then I'll love you in a wheelchair. And if I can't have children, we'll adopt or just live for each other." Stella cried openly. "Kendrick, I'm so tired." "Then get some rest. I'll take care of everything." She nodded, unable to speak. Kendrick hugged her and felt like he was breathing deeply for the first time in a year. It was still snowing outside, and Stella's mother was crying softly from the next room, that they were tears of joy. On December 24th, Christmas Eve, Kendrick and Stella got married in a small chapel next to the Lincoln Center in New York. Stella was wearing a simple white dress. Kendrick was in a dark suit. The witnesses were Nathan and Edith Grayson, who flew specially from Boston. After the wedding, they stood on the porch in the light of lanterns. The snow swirled around them, turning the world into a fairy tale. "You're not sorry?" Stella asked. "About what?" "That you connected your life with a former ballerina without money or connections?" Kendrick kissed her. "The only regret I have is that I didn't do it sooner." Church bells struck midnight, heralding the beginning of Christmas, and somewhere in New York, the registration documents for the Stella Fox Children's Music Academy Charitable Foundation were already being processed. Their new life began with a Christmas miracle. 2 years later, a Christmas concert at the Stella Fox Children's Music Academy was held in a large hall that used to belong to a bankrupt financial institution. Kendrick bought the building and completely converted it into a music school. Now there were classrooms for individual lessons, a concert hall with 200 seats, and even a small theater studio. Mom, don't worry so much, Stella whispered to an elderly woman in the front row. The kids can handle it. Eleanor Fox had arrived from Boston a month ago and now lived with her daughter and son-in-law in a spacious loft in the city center. Her health has improved significantly thanks to qualified doctors and the absence of financial problems. I'm just worried about Miles, she replied. Miles is the same 7-year-old violinist who was once Stella's student. Now he has become one of the best students at the academy. His parents, who were initially skeptical of their son's musical hobbies, were now proud of his success. A diverse audience gathered in the hall. In the front rows sat Edith Grayson in a new elegant dress, Nathan with his wife and children, Robert Adams, who became an honorary trustee of the academy. Next to them are the parents of the students, janitors and doctors, teachers and businessmen, pensioners and students. The academy is available to everyone, regardless of family income. This was the main principle that Stella defended when creating the school. Kendrick was sitting in the back row, watching his wife. Stella was standing backstage, encouraging the children before going out. She was wearing a dark blue dress, the same one she had worn to the auction 2 years ago. Edith Grayson recently redesigned it, adding volume to the waist. Stella was 4 months pregnant. For a long time, doctors could not say for sure whether she would be able to have children after the accident. But a miracle happened. The ultrasound showed that it would be a girl. Let's call her Hope, Stella said when they found out the baby's gender. Because she is our hope for the future. The concert began with a performance by a junior band. 6-year-olds played simple melodies on block flutes, but the audience listened to them with such attention, as if it were a premiere at the Metropolitan Opera. Look how happy they are, Eleanor Fox whispered to her daughter. Stella nodded. She saw that light in the children's eyes every day, the light that once burned in her own eyes when she first appeared on the stage of the San Francisco Ballet. Then the middle groups performed. Annie, that girl with absolute hearing, was now playing difficult pieces by Chopin. Sam, the janitor's son, performed a composition of his own composition. His parents were crying with pride. The highlight of the evening was Miles' performance. The boy came on stage in a white shirt and black trousers, holding in his hands a violin that Kendrick had given him for his last birthday. He played a glitch tune. A simple but incredibly touching melody filled the hall. Kendrick saw people taking out handkerchiefs, wiping away tears. Do you remember how you said that music can heal souls? He whispered to Stella when the boy finished the game. She did, and it's an undeniable truth. After the concert, a table was set in the lobby. The children and parents were drinking hot cider with pies baked by the students' mothers. The atmosphere was warm and homely. Mrs. Lowell, a young woman with a girl of about 5, approached her. Can I sign Sophia up for your classes? Of course. And what can Sophia do? Nothing yet, but she really likes to sing. Stella sat down next to the girl. Sophia, do you want to learn to play the piano? The girl nodded, looking with big, naive eyes. Then come to us on Monday. Let's try. Kendrick looked at this scene and thought about how his life had changed. 2 years ago, he measured success by the amount of funds in his account. Now he counted the smiles of the children who picked up the instrument for the first time. The academy has become not just a commercial project, but their common life's work. Kendrick handled administrative issues and fundraising, while Stella handled the educational process itself. They had 20 teachers and over 100 students. Mr. Lowell, a man in an expensive suit, approached him. I'm Jason Smith, head of the Foundation for the Support of Talented Youth. I wanted to discuss a potential collaboration. Of course, Kendrick replied, but he continued to watch Stella. She was talking to Miles and his parents, explaining something, showing hand movements. There was the same gleam in her eyes as when she was talking about ballet. Only now, this brilliance was aimed at educating the next generation. Kendrick, Nathan came over with a glass of orange juice. Well, are you satisfied? More than satisfied. I'm happy. Do you remember how you were afraid of losing your investment because of her? I remember, and now I understand how naive I was. Why? Because true wealth is not the numbers in a bank account. This is what you are able to give people and what they give you in return. The evening was drawing to a close. The guests dispersed, the children took home small gifts, souvenirs with the symbols of the academy. Stella and Kendrick stayed in the hall alone, clearing away the remaining cups and plates. Tired? He asked. A little, but it's a pleasant fatigue. Kendrick hugged his wife, putting his hand on her stomach. Do you think Hope will be a musician? Or maybe he'll become a doctor or a teacher? The main thing is that she should be joyful. They left the academy on a frosty December night. New York was ablaze with New Year's lights, and the air smelled of fresh snow and celebration. Do you know what I'm thinking? Stella said as they got into the car. About what? If someone had told me 2 years ago that I would be so happy, I wouldn't have believed it. Then it seemed that life had come to an end. And now I understand that it is just beginning. We have an academy. My daughter is coming soon. So many plans. Kendrick started the car and looked at his wife. Stella, thank you. For what? For agreeing to go to the auction with me. For not turning away from me right away. For teaching me how to love. Stella smiled and took his hand. And thank you for not being afraid to invite a simple cleaning employee. Who knows what would have happened if you hadn't said anything back then? They were driving through snowy New York, holding hands. A classic composition, Tchaikovsky's The Nutcracker, was playing on the car radio, a Christmas tale that reminded them of their own story. By the way, Kendrick said as they stopped at a traffic light, a reporter from Forbes called tomorrow. They want to create a story about us, about our academy, about how a tycoon married a cleaner and founded a music school. Stella laughed. A beautiful story for a glossy magazine. Can we tell you? Suddenly, someone else realizes what is really important in life. I agree. Just let them write the truth. That the millionaire was unhappy until he met a woman who showed him real values, and that the cleaner was actually a princess who lost her kingdom but found something more, love and family. The traffic light turned green and they drove on. The house was waiting for them with warmth and comfort, and tomorrow a new day in their amazing life would begin. On the plaque at the entrance to the academy, it was written, Stella Fox Children's Music Academy. Children's dreams gain wings here. But Kendrick knew that one more phrase could have been added. Here, adults understand what true happiness is. Their fairy tale was not fiction, but reality, and the most wonderful thing about it was that it continued every day.